years on from the publication of the hardback and 6 months from the paperback, I want now in January 2026 to add a new introduction to the conclusion that I filmed for the book. A lot has happened since I finished writing in 2023. The terrible Gaza war, the election of Donald Trump to a second term, the rise of right-wing populism around Western nations, the assassination of Charlie Kirk, and the large-scale demonstrations against immigration here in the UK. All of these things are having a really big impact on how Christians relate to Muslims and on how Muslims perceive Christians. It's all given me an opportunity to observe the evangelical micro-public sphere on Islam and to see whether the things I wrote about in the book are continuing to develop. And I think it's true that the positions that I outlined are becoming more entrenched, and evangelicals across the hawk-dove divide are having a really difficult time talking to one another civilly. For instance, a WhatsApp discussion forum that I'm part of has had to be suspended twice because of the intemperate debate between Christians, with personal insults being bandied around. This all suggests to me that it's more important than ever that Christians can find a way to continue talking to one another, let alone to Muslims. And so now back to the 2023 conclusion to the book. I hope that you have found my book and the idea of an evangelical micro-public sphere on Islam helpful. As far as possible, I have allowed evangelicals to explain in their own words their attitudes and responses to Islam. And we've seen a great variety in those responses, and it's clear that there is no one evangelical position for a variety of different reasons. Some evangelicals focus more on theology and evangelism and mission. Others focus on the need for social cohesion and peacemaking. The conclusion to the book touches on some of the issues that I was unable to deal with in depth in previous chapters. It revisits the importance of geography, why evangelicals in different parts of the world might be responding in different ways. It acknowledges that race is an issue and highlights the importance of gender, not to mention some of the difficult issues faced by both communities in responding to sexual orientation, the environment and the climate crisis. And also, with an increasing number of converts in both directions, it discusses the need for an open conversation about convert care in both communities, although this is easier for Muslims, as those who leave Islam often face dangers and opposition. The conclusion makes clear that Muslims are not unaware of evangelical responses to Islam, and sometimes react strongly, especially when it comes to Christian mission in Muslim contexts, the engagement of evangelicals in politics, especially in the United States, and the support of some evangelicals for the State of Israel. It's not all negative though, and there are Muslims and Christians who find they have something in common in their shared desire to take their scriptures seriously. This suggests that Christians and Muslims should be able to do research and study of their texts and traditions together, rigorously, openly, honestly, without closing down discussion by making essentialist statements or claims of Orientalism when difficult questions are raised. And I argue that what is needed is not the much vaunted tolerance, which is really a very weak concept, but rather what Martin Marty calls risky hospitality, in which both host and guest in a conversation make themselves vulnerable to one another. Not all evangelicals are ready for such an engagement. Indeed, some have suggested that both Muslims and evangelicals are at a crossroad in their responses to one another. Some on both sides are taking entrenched positions and are advocating violence. Others, however, want to respond with grace and reach out to one another. So the book finishes with a reflection on what it means for Christians to take the way of the cross of Christ in their encounters with Muslims.